Video is going to talk about working with large and small percentages. So a large percentage would be something that's over 100%, and a small percentage would be something that is under 1%. Let's take a look at a couple small percentages first, and let's convert those small percentages into decimals and into fractions. A lot of this video is going to be things that you are already familiar with. We're just going to talk about different scenarios that might show up that maybe might cause you to double check yourself, and I don't want you to do that. So 0.6%, you can see that that is less than 1%. It's already got a decimal in it. So when we try to convert 0.6% into a decimal, you don't just leave it. Because that percent sign is disappearing, that means that that decimal is still going to run 2 spaces away. That's going to leave us at 0.006%, or 6/10, 100th, thousandths, 6/1000ths as our decimal. Let's convert 0.6% into a fraction. Well, as a fraction, we just need to put the percent over 100. But now I have a decimal over 100, and that kind of looks just a little bit awkward, so we need to fix that. So here's how we're going to fix that. We're going to multiply this fraction, top and bottom, by 10. 0.6 times 10 is going to shift that decimal over 1. Which means that down here, we also need to shift the decimal over 1, or add a 0. So that becomes 6/1000, not 6/100, because of where the decimal was. Let's take a look at 0.59%, or 59 hundredths of a percent. Well, to turn it into a decimal, we know what to do with this. The decimal is just going to run 2 spaces away. And when the decimal runs 2 spaces away, our number will become 0.0059, or 59 10,000ths. When I put 0.59 over 100, we have that pesky decimal still in there, so we need to get rid of that. So, because it's 59, I need to move that decimal 2 times. I also move the decimal 2 times down here. You can also think of that as multiplying by 100, because you need to move the decimal 2 times. So you can see that I have 59 over 10,000. Let's take a look at bigger percentages. Let's take a look at percentages that are too big for us to deal with like we would normally. That 230%. In order to convert that into a decimal, and I have my keyword up there just to guide me along, but it didn't quite fit in the video. In order to convert 230% into a decimal, we find the decimal sign, which is always hiding out the end, like a period in a sentence. And then we're going to do what we always do and shift it over by 2. 1, 2. So it's going to end up being 2.3 as a decimal, even though there's still numbers left over here. We've talked about that in class a number of times. Let's talk about 700 as a decimal. I'm going to take 700. I'm going to shift that decimal 2 times. Because the percent sign has disappeared, I'm left with 7. There is nothing else there. I could put 7.00, but does that really need to happen? Not in most circumstances. So we're going to get rid of those numbers that we don't need. Now let's talk about taking 230%. I'm going to erase my guide so that we know what the original number was. Let's take 230% and let's turn that into a fraction. Now here's the thing about percentages. You know that 100% means 1 whole. If you do something 100%, then you've done all you can do. No more, no less. So what we're going to do with 230% is we're going to leave the 2. Because that 2 says 200%, which means 2 wholes. So we're just going to put the 2 as the whole number, because it's already there. and it's already a whole number. let's take out that 30% and put 30 over 100. So now you have 2 and 30 over 100. And then we need to simplify. 30 divided by 10 is 3. 100 divided by 10 is 10. We are not left with 3/10. We are left with 2 and 3/10 for our final answer. Let's go ahead and take 700. Let's put that into a fraction form. Well, anything past the first 2 digits means that that's a whole number. So we have 7 wholes, and we have 0 over 100. And we don't need to say 7 and 0, 0 over 100. So our final answer is going to be 7. Let's scoot on down the board that's been prepared ahead of time. And let's take a look at the decimals that we are going to convert into percentages. This is something that we've done before. I'm really not adding anything new into it. When 1 and 9 hundredths becomes a percent, to make it into a percent, that decimal is going to get super thrilled. It's going to run over. So 1 and 9 hundredths becomes 109%. Same thing over here. Decimal runs 2 times. We have our percent. If that 2 wasn't there, then this would be a 0 here. We know to fill in extra spaces with a 0. Down here, same thing. Even though we've got a lot of zeros here, that decimal moves twice. We get 0.9. We don't need to say 0.9. You're not wrong if you do, but you don't have to. Same thing here. Decimal runs twice. We get 0.21. Let's go over to the last part, and this is the part that gets to be a little bit fun, because what we're going to work with now is we are going to work with mixed numbers, which is the whole number and the fraction. And in order to take care of this, what we need to do is we need to turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. We need fractions that are top heavy, that have too much on the top and the bottom is too small. So let's talk about how to do that. For 1 and 1/2, I know that in this fraction, 2 parts make a whole. And I already have 1 whole, and then I've got 1 extra piece on top that doesn't quite fit in. So I'm going to take my 2 and multiply it by 1, because I have 1 whole and it takes 2 parts to make a whole. So 2 times 1 is 1. And then I'm going to take 2 times 1 is 2, because we're all paying attention. Hopefully you caught that before I did. So 2 times 1 is 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in that 1. So now we have 2 plus 1 is 3 over 2. And now we've made that improper. So now all I have to do is put this improper fraction over 100. And we know how to do that, but I'm going to try to keep this video short, so I'm not going to cross multiply and divide like you guys are used to doing. Now, for 4 and 3/5, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to turn 4 and 3/5 into an improper fraction. I'm going to take 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. And then I'm going to add 3 to that. So 20 plus 3 is 23. My denominator is still 5, so I'm going to put a 5 here. My fraction is 23 over 5. To turn 23 over 5 into a percent, I'm going to do what I always do and put equals over 100. And then I cross multiply and divide for both of these, and what I get in the box is going to be my final answer, just like normal. Now, you're going to be asked to do 3 things in your form. You are going to be asked to do 2 of them in one question, and then 1 of them in a separate question. You are going to need to tell me what is 0.27% as a fraction. You are going to tell me what 300% as a decimal is. And then, for the last one, you're just going to convert 3 2/7 into an improper fraction. And there you go.